Good morning, it's 7:45 this wonderful Jubilee weekend. A number of local people, as we've been hearing about this morning, are being recognised in the Queen's birthday honours list. My letter has not yet come. Bit gutted. Turns out, after speaking this morning, I would have got it back in April. So it's definitely not happening for me this Jubilee. Among them is Roger Hill, the former chairman of Cambridgeshire Hearing Help, who's set to receive the British Empire Medal from the Queen in recognition of his work with the organisation, which has supported thousands of deaf people over the years here in Cambridgeshire. Now, recently the charity merged with the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association to create an all-encompassing place to go for support for anyone with deafness or hearing loss in the county. Now, Andy Palmer is the chief exec of the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association. Andy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Roger, tell us all about him. What a wonderful honour for him. He must be delighted.
We're absolutely delighted for Roger, and it's an honour for me to be able to tell his story this morning to you, especially is because it's the Jubilee weekend, but also it's National Volunteer Week this week, and Roger got his medal, which is the British Empire Medal, for the work he did volunteering, and sterling work it was. So to tell you a bit about Roger, he's volunteered for Cambridgeshire Hearing Help, or CDA now, for 13 years, became a trustee 10 years ago, and he actually chaired the charity for 5 of those years. And what happened was, during lockdown, like all charities, a lot of them have paid members of staff. Unfortunately, the chief executive contracted COVID quite seriously and was out of action, which meant that someone had to step up, because if you think about back at that time, COVID was extremely worrying for elderly people, and that's who Hearing Help support. In fact, 6,500 elderly people rely on Hearing Help to maintain their hearing aids, and that's when Roger stepped up. I worked closely with him during that time, and he stepped up to create a new postal service for sending people hearing aid batteries in the post to make sure they could still stay connected to the radio or TV and understand their relatives, because they couldn't see people face to face.
And it's hard, isn't it? I know I've struggled over FaceTime or whatever, or Zoom. Sometimes I can't imagine, if you're a little bit harder of hearing, how challenging that could have been.
Well, I think it's difficult at the best of times, to be honest. But then you've got a national pandemic, and you're maybe not used to technology. But it takes people like Roger in those situations not just to sit by the wayside. Roger stepped up and took control of the organisation when, unfortunately, the leader was out. Set up new services, led the staff team, and made sure that those 6,500 people in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough were able to maintain their hearing aids. And then he set up new services. So yeah, thank you to Roger, and I think it's a well-deserved award.
And how much of a challenge for charities in general? Because obviously we've spoken a lot about how it was difficult for charities during the pandemic because we stopped doing events to raise money for them, and of course you were needed more than ever. And people like Roger, I guess, were the backbone of charities like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was difficult for charities not being able to raise money during that period of time, and certainly difficult, especially for an organisation like Hearing Help, which, in order to deliver its services, had a network of 40 plus face-to-face drop-in centres for elderly people to attend and have their hearing aids physically dealt with. So as soon as lockdown started, that literally almost put a complete end to the way that the charity operated at that time. So yeah, extremely challenging. And it was Roger, who's got a career as a management consultant, and he's worked in engineering in the oil and gas industry, very capable man, who was forced to kind of retire because of his hearing loss, was around at the time.
So tell us what this recognition will mean to Roger. Have you spoken to him? Do you know his reaction?
Well, Roger's a very humble man, and he needed some coaxing, if you like, to try and get him to allow us to make it public and talk about what he'd done. But he's obviously very pleased, but he recognises lots of people worked hard in the pandemic and doesn't really. To be honest with you, he's a humble guy, and we had to try and persuade him to help us make this go public. But I think what he wants to utilise this for is to bring attention to the work that Hearing Help and CDA do, and let people know about the work we do to support people in the community. And I think that's where he kind of wants this to go. Okay,
well, in that case then, let's do him proud. Let's save his blushes. You tell us all about CDA, and if people who need your help, how we can get in touch with you.
Okay, well, Cambridgeshire Deaf Association supports anybody who's deaf or has hearing loss in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and we support right from just providing people with volunteers to do day-to-day things, to CQC registered personal care, which is being rated as outstanding. We have advocates, we have hearing aid maintenance centres, we teach people sign language and deaf awareness. And if you want any help or you want to find out more or become a volunteer, it's camsdeaf.org. That's CANBSDEAF for Freddie.org. And you can click on a link there and get in touch with us.
And Andy,
and that's how to do it.
On a complete side note, I know I'm going off on a tangent. If you are worried about your hearing loss, or you just think, I don't want a hearing aid, can I just stress, I saw a hearing aid a couple of years ago at my grand's house. They are just, I mean, I don't know now why people won't wear them for vanity purposes. They're tiny and the cleverest things ever, aren't they?
They're so good these days. They've changed dramatically in the last decade. They're digital. They provide a high quality sound, but yeah, they've been miniaturized. So the tubes are almost microscopic. There's no big ear molds anymore. So yeah, really, really good, great technology. But what I would urge people to do is, if they're starting to notice that maybe when they go to the pub or go to a bar, family gathering, they're kind of missing what people are saying, that's kind of hearing loss. But if you do something about it early, go and get yourself a hearing aid. You'll adapt nice and quickly, and it'll mean that you'll probably avoid the major problems that hearing loss can give you later in life when you can't adapt to the hearing aids because it's been so long. So if you do recognise the signs, like you're listening today and think, do you know what, actually I do miss things now and again, go to your GP, get yourself some hearing aids, and believe me, it'll improve your life for years to come.
Oh, definitely as well, because it just makes you feel like you're back being part of the conversation again, I guess, Andy. I don't know if this is the line, Andy, or if it's actually my hearing, because I do actually get quite a lot, genuinely get ringing in my ears. Can I hear birds in the background? Because it sounds like you're somewhere a lot sunnier than where I am right now.
Yeah, I am actually. I'm looking out from this balcony across the swimming pool because luckily I'm with the FA, with the England Deaf Men's Football Team for a week. We've come to Portugal for a training camp. It's the same place actually Peterborough United come sometimes for their pre-season training, and we're just getting the boys ready to face a couple of teams, a Portuguese third division side actually, and then a Spanish academy team, to prepare the lads for the World Cup in South Korea next year. So yeah, a bit of warm weather training. I'm not complaining.
That is amazing. Come on, Andy. I know you're the chief exec, but hand on heart, how much do you actually need to be there to help with the training?
Well, my role actually is...
Are you going to be running around with a whistle, Andy? I don't think you are you?
Have you seen a picture of me? You know, you're right. I'm not running around. But what I do here is that I provide sign language support to some of the deaf players, and also look at ways of supporting the coaches to improve their communication and deaf awareness skills. And also, you know, this camp as well, looking into some technology to try and turn some of the speech into text by the side of the pitch to improve the access. So yeah, it's a great job, a great team of people. And you know, if anybody's worried, you know, the FA do a great job with their para teams, especially the deaf team and all the other para football teams, to try and make sure that we go out and represent the country well and give ourselves the best chance we can of winning tournaments. And
speaking of representing the country, see, Andy, sorry, I know you're probably in Portugal, we should probably let you go, but Rose Ayling-Ellis on Strictly last year, I mean, she must have been a game changer in terms of public understanding of people living with hearing loss, but also what they can do that we wouldn't necessarily think that they could. And I guess that has been a huge impact in breaking down barriers for your work.
Definitely. I think there's a phrase in the deaf community, which is deaf people can do anything, that was around long before Rose did Strictly. I think she did change the game a little bit in terms of public perception. There was so much sign language on mainstream TV. She's an adorable person, and winning that competition was no sort of mean feat at all. So I think 25 million people watched that final. So if you think of the amount of deaf awareness and in the public conscience that would have happened on that night itself when she won, was incredible. So I think the deaf community have realised a bit of a change, but for a lot of people it's nothing new. In the deaf community there's already dancers, there's already actors, poets, politicians, creators. It's just that in the deaf community, it's a little bit of I don't know, that it's a little bit of a kind of secret community, if you like, and it takes people like Rose to point the finger at it to say, it is here, let's recognise the deaf community and all their achievements.
So, Andy, do you know what? I've had a thought. One of our BBC local radio colleagues did something similar around the final of Strictly. Let's do it. Why don't you come, when you get back from Portugal, can you come on my show in the studio and we can have a sign language lesson?
Well, what I'll do is, so you get the real authentic experience, I'll bring along one of our 2 teachers from Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, and they're both deaf teachers, both qualified. We'll come in and we'll do some sign language for sure, maybe even video it and stream it online for some of the viewers or something like that.
Okay, just so you know, I can do a bit, but I can do baby signing, so I don't know if that's going to put me at an advantage or a disadvantage, because I don't want them coming in thinking, what is she, 2 years old?
Well, I don't think that's going to be the case. I reckon you're probably better than you already think. One of the important things about sign language is sign language is about what you do with the actual signs, but a lot of it's to do with your expression and your body language. As you would have seen with Rose, the way she communicated, it was not just through the signs, but it was also through her body language and her facial expressions, which are really crucial. So a top tip for people if they're thinking about learning sign language is let yourself go. Add 10% to your body language and your expressions, and that really helps everyone understand what you're feeling and what you're saying.
Anyone who's met me in real life, Andy, knows that I should definitely not be adding 10% to my expressions, for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting my fingers to my chin and I'm lowering my hand. I often get please and thank you mixed up, but as in I don't go far enough down for thank you. But roughly speaking, I'm saying thank you. I might be saying please, but I think I'm saying thank you.
And I'm saying you're welcome. So thanks very much. And please and thank you are the same sign. It just depends at what end of the interaction you're using it for. But thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Roger today to talk about his achievements. We're so proud of him, and I hope he gets to enjoy his little holiday that he's on now and enjoy the medal.
Well, you make sure you pass on our best wishes to him, won't you? And we'll watch out for the investiture, even if he keeps it stum. We'll be looking out for him.
Lovely, thank you so much.
Andy, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. That's Andy Palmer there, the Chief Executive of the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association.